Bitcoin clearing all sorts of important hurdles in the last 24 hours since we spoke, and how does that change the overall picture? How high can this rally go, and what to essentially expect in the more short term for this weekend is the topic of today. And other than that, I think we just jump right on this one, start off with the chart view right on over here. And first things first, Bitcoin has just completed its 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive daily closures in a row. So while yesterday did close over some very, very important levels, which do set in the tone for, probably the rest of the month to come, in the very near term over this weekend, this would be a damn good time for a bit of a pullback, as anytime that we have seen really more than 3 positive closures in a row, it does start to gear the probabilities towards at least one negative day to kind of break it up, as that has been the average. And if we were to go to the 84th percentile, that would be actually 4 days in a row. So seeing as we just printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive days in a row, it's becoming less and less likely. You're starting to get into like extreme outlier territory. This would be probably somewhere around the 90th percentile right now, if I had to guess. Do keep in mind, we have seen a maximum of like 14 just straight up days in a row. But being that it is a weekend, it's a good time for a bit of a counter move. And in this case, I would say that probably plays in alignment with that. Saturdays just in general are 50-50 in terms of positive versus negative throughout Bitcoin's history, with very light returns on both sides. So we're likely looking at a rangy type day, as you typically would expect on a weekend. On top of that, we can go ahead and reference the bands, the daily bands for the range, not on the hourly right here, but maybe the daily would be good. And yes, indeed, what can we see? We can see the top side of the 78.6 range high, percent range high, I should say, which essentially did find yesterday's high, is 48,400 and change right there to the upside, versus the downside at the 61.8 level, which is 46,350. So anywhere between there throughout, today and tomorrow is probably fair game. I would be a little bit more biased towards a bit of a pullback, somewhere down closer to about 46.5, 46.4 region, but likely a bounce as well. And likewise for the upside, I do believe that over this weekend, we probably see it capped, if there is an attempt, to 48,450. To actually take this one step further, we can go ahead and reference the 5-day time frame right here, which we were also looking at yesterday. Let's go to this chart right here. And we can see that the median has actually risen up quite severely, to about 49,150 basically. But Bitcoin did close above it yesterday. So that is important. That does imply that, probably within this next 5-day spread, there's probably going to be an attempt somewhere around there. So the overall rally likely does continue. It's just in the more near term, is there a pullback based upon that? Probably yes. To take this one step further, we can go ahead and reference one of the signals that we're looking at right over here. For the daily on CME, we were looking at the Prime Oscillators Pro, which did fire off a green signature right here on Friday the 2nd. So that was just over a week ago. And we've looked at all of the past times in the past year and a half, where we've seen the daily Prime Oscillators Pro on CME turn green for the first tick. And well, out of 16 prior times, 11 have produced some upside movement. So obviously that number is going to be going up here, as we got another iteration right here, of course, which I'll actually just mark off on the chart now that we fully have it underway. And so that number will be going up. And then the average move based upon those for the ones that did go up was just over 15%. So putting that into perspective, from the time that this one actually fired off to where we're currently at, there has been almost a 13% move. So very, very close to that average already, actually, which does suggest, again, in the more near term, does Bitcoin maybe try a little bit higher towards $49,000, maybe test this region right in over here, and then play out a bit of a pullback? Yeah, probably, coming into next week. So very, very near term over the weekend, pullback and range. Next week, likely continuation. Keep an eye out on that 49,100-ish region, because that would be a good area for a nice little pullback, as this target over here would be more or less met, and we'd also be simultaneously seeing this area over here hit for the old Bing and Bong play. Of course, that does imply that Bitcoin starts to even close above that region. We're probably looking at a much greater extension of this overall move. At that point, things can get really fucking crazy, I guess. I'd probably go to CME's view over here, as this one I think is a little more reasoned, or reasonable, showing 54,000 bucks is still a likely area of interest, assuming that Bitcoin can just maintain above the pivot at 44 and a half. On a 5-day closing basis. Anyway, speaking of the 5-day time frame, we should also reference this chart running over here. Again, this was one of the major ones, which have been going off of for a while now for just major moves in Bitcoin's history. And it is the 5-day volatility versus stochastic momentum chart. And we do have something new to be speaking about here. Yesterday, Bitcoin closed yet another 5-day time frame, and you can see it closed above the pivot, which was 46,400, 46,500, somewhere around there. So if we were, if we really were going to see like a major trap around this region, we would have expected Bitcoin to close a 5-day below there, to be fair. So this has actually kind of changed pretty much everything around for me, as far as, just statistically speaking goes. Just more likely now that we see the next major move to the upside, into the deeper $50,000 territory, most likely. Anyways, what's new about this as well is that the 5-day time frame stochastic pivot has now shifted down like $3,000 almost to 43,750. So that's quite supportive here. That's quite supportive. Now, of course, we don't have volatility expansion just yet, but just like before, when it's angled to the downside, have to be respectful of the downside. In this case, it's going to be angled to the upside. And so just likely, like in speaking in likelihood, speaking in probabilities, when we do see volatility expansion occur, which, mathematically is inevitable, it's more likely to come to the upside in this case. And when we have seen this particular setup fire off, I mean, this has been, an average of 40% move over the course of just over a month. So we take it from the low in this case, which was 38.5, to current times. That's already been 15 days. So again, going out about 35 days from there, that would put us in basically the last week of February, and 40% up from that low would put Bitcoin at about 54,000 bucks. So you can all see the confluence between that and this over here on the 5-day CME bands. And we can even take it one step further, because remember at the beginning of this month, we went over the monthly statistics for February, and this should have been a big signal to myself that that my overall sentiments that downside was going to be more likely was just going to be wrong, because February is the most likely month to close positively for Bitcoin. It doesn't have the greatest positive return. It's still pretty fucking good, I'd say, but it has the highest probability throughout Bitcoin's history to return positively throughout the month at just under 77%, as 10 out of 13 have been closing positive. In fact, it's really more like 11 out of 14, but we just didn't have data for like the first February in Bitcoin's history, because it was trading like such low numbers. TradingView doesn't even show the fucking numbers. That's the problem. Anyways, in this case, so it looks pretty likely right now that February is going to close positively, but we should pay attention to the average return for the positive closures, which is 24.23%. Okay, well, let's put that into context over here. So let's go over here to monthly. Let's see what the monthly open was, which was down here at 43,000 bucks or so. So if you were to add about 25% to that number, that puts Bitcoin about 52,500 to 53,000 bucks. We're starting to see a lot of things kind of stack up around the mid/lower mid of $50,000 territory here. So fair enough. Yeah, I have to be kind of just generally biased towards a move in that overall direction. Again, over the weekend here, if things want to pull back and play within the in the daily range, that's completely fine. Be a really good time for that. But in essence, I would be saying that, hey, Bitcoin is most likely to continue here, maybe after a short-term pullback back down to like mid or low 46, but after that, coming into next week and probably the rest of this month, because not only do we have the monthly returns over here, but also the 5-day setup over here, which did align with the end of this month in terms of timing, all pointing towards those regions. So starting to get a lot of confluence within the within the overall picture. So to me, that's a really, really strong signal, and just makes things more and more likely that we do see a sustained move above 50,000 bucks at this point. Again, probably not happening today, probably not happening tomorrow, but this next week, we could very easily see continuation. And if not that, then the week after that is extremely likely, I'd say, as we do reference that. In fact, speaking of the weekly, let's see, what do we have for weekly run up and run down statistics? Let's go over here to spot price action, just curious. Yeah, this is interesting. So on average, we see a run up of of 3. So we're very lucky to get 3 weeks in this case. But because this is, this is likely a continuation play, we're probably going to play up to the top end of 80 to 90th percentile spec. So, it could be another like 2-3 weeks straight of positive. Overall, of course, there's going to be pullbacks along there on the daily, but this is looking like it wants more. So fair enough. The rally continues. Looks like stock market's at new all-time highs as well. We got NQ making new highs above 18,000. We got SPY making new highs above 5,000. Haven't even checked on these ones in a long time. Really since like beginning of Q4 of 2023, saying, hey, these markets are probably poised for new all-time highs, at least based off the stats, and that's kind of what we're getting right now. So I think we'll do a check-in on Ethereum tomorrow. That one's actually rather interesting. It was also a bit of a tell that I kind of missed this past week, despite doing a video on it. We said, hey, Ethereum's looking a lot stronger than Bitcoin. Ethereum's looking a lot more like it wants to trade at the upside here. So that would also been a good signal to be paying attention to, because generally speaking, this market kind of moves together. But we'll go over a little bit more in depth, I think tomorrow or Monday, something like that. And yeah, it's a good place maybe leaving off. I should say that if you do find this content valuable or in any way meaningful or insightful, please do consider liking, subscribing. It massively helps out the channel. And other than that, I want to wish you the best of the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.